Mr Thompson, your biggest worry or worries?
Yes, so I represent the pharmaceutical industry. We supply 80% of the branded medicines to the NHS. There are 45 million packs of medicine a month which leave these shores and go to the EU, and there are 37 million packs of medicines a month which come back the other way. Actually, 90% go through Calais for the reasons that Richard has described. Clearly, there are very serious consequences if we are not able to deliver a medicine to a patient. So our whole focus since the referendum has been around what do we do to ensure that we can deliver. So we have been working for a long time, actually since the referendum. The thing that is of most concern to us is obviously now in our planning, the government has given us guidance that in preparing stockpiles of medicine, we should assume 6 weeks for the delays that may be at the border. If that number is wrong, then that would cause serious consequences for us if we haven't therefore got the planning wrong. So I think that's sort of the first thing. I think the second thing is, in a no deal, we don't have the agreements that we have in the withdrawal agreement with the regulator, and therefore actually the transfer of information between the two regulators is at some risk, and obviously having an effective regulator is critical for an industry like ours, which is a heavily regulated industry. So those are the two things. We've been working closely with the Bioindustry Association, which is our sister association. From the referendum, we had 200 global experts working on this over the summer after the referendum. We came up with trade regulation, movement of people and investment in the science base as our 4 key issues. But obviously some of those are slightly more in the UK government's control. But the border one, as we've already discussed, there are two sets of sort of authorities you need to go through to get through the border, and therefore there's a level of uncertainty there which is obviously concerning.
Now, it's been reported that there are some arrangements for the stockpiling of crucial medicines. Yeah. Could you just tell us a little bit about that and how it's been decided which ones to make sure we have sufficient stocks of, just in case?
So I've told you that we as an industry have been working for a long time on this. It became clear that it was not possible for people to give us realistic scenarios about how all of this would play out, and therefore we assessed that the no-deal scenario was the one that would give us the biggest challenges. I wrote out to my members last year reconfirming the need for them to double their efforts to ensure that they were preparing stockpiles of medicines so that we could continue to deliver those medicines to patients. That obviously that's what we're about, that's what's really important for us. And so companies have been making their own arrangements. Obviously, the government giving us an assessment about what we should build in is important, and that was very helpful. The second thing is that it was incredibly helpful that the government agreed that they would accept medicines which were made in France and Germany to come to the UK without further batch test releasing. This is complicated in our area. Every batch of medicines that's manufactured, you take a sample into a laboratory, you do a lot of clinical assessment to ensure it's got the right active and that the medicine is going to work in the way that it says on the label. That's why patients can have absolute certainty that the medicine is going to work every time. AstraZeneca and GSK are on record of allocating £100 million to actually build duplicate laboratories on the continent. I did not believe there was time to do that in the UK, and therefore the UK's decision to agree that they would continue to take medicines from the continent without further batch release testing is a really significant step in helping us to prepare. What we're looking for, because we're interested in patients across the whole of Europe, we're now looking for the EU to do the same thing, which they haven't done, which is why GSK and AZ have had to lay out that money. I'm concerned today to see that Guido Rassi, who is the highly respected regulator of the EMA, has announced that he believes there will be some medicine shortages on the continent. And I would say to him, if he believes that, then he should replicate what the UK government have done, and he should ensure that the 2,600 medicines that have some part of the manufacture done in the UK can also go to patients in Europe without further batch release testing.
That's really helpful and very clear. Thank you very much indeed.